Hi, well, hello everybody. I'm joined this morning by Mark, who is the Glenfiddich brand ambassador for Scotland. We're just going to do a little bit of an introduction on our next tasting, which is on the 7th of July at 7:30 p.m. So, Mark, if I just hand across to you, so you can tell us a little bit about the whiskies that we're going to be doing.
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. Thanks for having me along. I've picked 3 whiskies from Glenfiddich. I've been a brand ambassador for the Grant family now for approaching 10 years. 8 of those years, particularly with Glenfiddich. And one of the things I've seen over the years is that, of course, people think they know Glenfiddich. They see the green triangular bottle and make an assumption that, oh yeah, I know that brand, the supermarket malt. We have a vast range of whiskies to offer people, and certainly I think now there's over 20 different styles on the market that you can purchase. So I've picked 3. One of them brand new, came out 4 weeks ago, called Glenfiddich Orchard Experiment. Now, it's we have a range of whiskies that we do within the Glenfiddich portfolio called the Experimental Series. Some of your viewers might know the IPA experiment we did, which was a beer cask finish. We had Project 20, which was an amalgamation of 20 casks picked by the ambassadors. Fire and Cane, which is a smoky Glenfiddich and a rum cask finish. And the newest incarnation is Orchard, which is utilising fairly unusual casks, actually. Well, certainly for the whiskey industry. Pomona cask, Pomona spirit casks. And Pomona is a little bit like Pinot de Chant, where the French take cognac and wine and mix it together. In Normandy, they make something called Pommeau, which is cider and cider brandy brought together. And there's a family down in Somerset, is it Somerset? I think so, called the Temperleys, and they have huge orchard there. And they make cider. They also distill apple cider brandy. And then they've made something called Pomona by taking fermented apple juice and mixing it in with the brandy and then aging that in oak casks. So this particular whiskey that we're going to have along with us on the evening is an aged Glenfiddich, which we've then taken from American oak and popped into these Pomona casks, which are actually European oak sherry butts, basically, that are being used. Really interesting product, and I'm looking forward to getting the feedback from the members and those at the tasting to see what their thoughts are, because it's such a new product.
Amazing, amazing. And how has that been received so far, Mark?
Really good, actually. I've been on the road since pretty much it came out and hosted a number of events and tastings and launches, press events. And in general, it's a light and playful whiskey, I would say. It's perfect because, of course, it's quite warm outside at the moment, even here in Edinburgh. And it's definitely that sort of whiskey where you think, I could make that into a highball. You know, it's a light and refreshing. And most people have got their head around it quite quickly, and we've got some really positive feedback from it.
Amazing, amazing. And so following the Orchard one, what would we be going on to for the second one?
Well, I've gone up the range quite a bit, a little bit of a treat with a whiskey called Grand Cru. It is part of our Grand series. There's 3 in the series. This is a 23-year-old whiskey. Initially, it's 23 years in American oak mostly. There's a small amount of European oak to mature the whiskey. And once we've got that 23-year-old whiskey the way we want it, we put it into French oak casks, which have previously held cuvée wines. The cuvée wines are wines that will go on to become champagne. They're taken in by the champagne houses and made into the recipe they want. And some champagne houses will put those wines aside in stainless steel or concrete. But there's a few champagne houses will take those wines and put them into oak before transferring them into bottle to become champagne. So we've grabbed some of those casks. We work with a broker in France, and French oak in itself is a wonderful product, very, very perfumed almost in its style, what it will deliver to the whiskey. But having these very high-end wines in there prior changes the cask ever so slightly. Grand Cru is a sublime whiskey. It's complex. There's a lot of finesse to it. And again, it's one of these things that people may not have had an opportunity to try Glenfiddichs at that kind of age, to see the styles that we can actually produce.
Amazing, Amazing. Looking forward to, I've not had the 23 before, Mark. So really, really looking forward to that, to be honest.
It's one of my faves in the range at the moment, I'd say, but it's more the style. It's unfortunate it's at that kind of age because I can't drink that every day as much as I'd like to. But we've got other whiskies in the range that will pick up nicely from that.
It's funny because I mean, even the packaging. I mean, I'm a sucker when it comes to packaging on things, Mark, and I'll do a reel of the packaging as well, and it's just absolutely fantastic. It just has that elegance about it, which is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
It stands out really well. We made a conscious effort. I think the portfolio that we had at Glenfiddich, people would think 12, 15, 18, maybe 21. What's interesting with Glenfiddich, there's very few whiskies we do which are linear or vertical vintages, if you like, that you go, right, I've had the 12, so now the 15 is 3 years older. They're actually all made very differently. There's only 3 whiskies in our portfolio that are actually older versions of each other. It's the 12, the 18, and the 30. And we saw that as we were creating the portfolio or starting to bring new expressions in and widening our choice or our offering, that there wasn't really a clear path for consumers. That you wouldn't really go, you could go 12, 15, 18, and those whiskies do actually increase in richness and complexity. But then when you get to 21, it's actually a softer whiskey than the 18.
Right, okay. Yeah.
And so, there's not an obvious jump up to that. So with the Grand Series, we've actually taken the 21-year-old and moved it into the same style of bottle and packaging as our 23 Grand Cru, and there's a 26-year-old Grand Couronne, and there's actually a 22-year-old Taiwanese exclusive called Grand Cortez as well, which,
right, okay.
Which is not available in the UK, sadly. And these whiskies are so that you can have a range where you might think, well, I know the age statement 12, 15, 18s. Now I'm going to concentrate on these ones. And there is a sort of style similarity in those 4 whiskies that makes sense, almost separately from what we call the core range, 12, 15, 18. And then we have the experimental series, which is just a great playground for, as the name suggests, experimenting with whiskey.
Experimenting, amazing. Sounds absolutely fantastic. And then, so the last one is a bit of a treat, Mark. Well, the 23 is a treat.
Bit of a curveball, yeah. I'm as I said, I've been doing this job for quite some time, and I love to delight people with things. New whiskies that we have, obviously, things like Orchard or rare whiskies or higher age statements like the 23-year-old. But there's one style of whiskey that I think delights everybody, whether it's at a whiskey show or a tasting or a training, and it's the one that the ambassador kind of pulls out the case, which has virtually no information on it. It's not a product that's available. It's usually a cask sample. I think you've got the bottle there, and it's about as naked as it can come.
I do. It's pretty much a naked bottle, Mark, but on the nose, it is.
Yeah, I know what's in it. A few years ago, when we had the experimental series, and I'd just moved back, I was in London for 16 years, and I just moved back to Scotland, and I wanted to create something that would give Glenfiddich a buzz back in the home country. So we decided to do a music festival up at the distillery, just for the trade. So it was just for those who worked in hospitality. And initially, the first year, it was just a big thank you. We had, who played on the first one? Fratelli's played on the first year, along with about 15 other bands. We had food trucks in there, 2 days camping. Great. About 360 people were there with the first one. We did it again, and it went up to 1,200 people. Again, just Scotland, just bartenders. You can imagine, it was just wonderful.
Amazing.
And in the third year, when we got to 1,600 people, I wanted to offer something a little bit different. So I bottled a single cask of whiskey that I'd worked with Brian Kinsman to select, who's our malt master. And I wanted something that was approachable for everyone, because obviously there was very many different hospitality individuals there. You had people from 5-star hotels, and you had people from very run-of-the-mill high street bars and pubs that perhaps only had Glenfiddich 12 behind the bar. So I actually ended up choosing an 11-year-old Glenfiddich, which in itself, we obviously don't do. But what's really rare about this one is that it was fully matured for its 11 years in a Californian red wine cask. It's really fruity. So you've got a sort of American oak sweet backbone, which is where Glenfiddich really shines, I believe. And then you've got this lovely fruity, red, slightly tannic covering around it. It's juicy. It really is actually quite a juicy whiskey, which sounds strange, but hopefully when we get to the tasting, you'll understand. It's at cask strength, from memory, around about 57% ABV.
Yeah. 50, I think 54.3 mark, I think it was, yeah.
54.3.
Yeah.
Sorry, I do quite a lot of cask samples.
Absolutely, the numbers all over. It's amazing.
Yeah, so it's a real treat, and we only did 220 bottles of it, which sold out we did it for, I think it was £70. Again, I wanted it accessible. I didn't want it to be, off the scale. And the bartenders, excuse me, anyone who purchased it, they actually at the site could label it themselves. They wrote their own name on it. So, it was a real keepsake for a lot of people. Sold out on the first day. I kept one case back for doing things just like this. So that was in 2019, early 2019, I think that we took that bottle, and or was it 2018? And I think most people have drunk them actually, or they're on a shelf somewhere, but I didn't see any hit auction, which was really nice.
It's funny because when you get something, to be honest, quite special like that, Mark, and like you say, bottling it at 11 years old isn't a traditional age that Glenfiddich brings something out, and really looking forward to that, and really looking forward to getting out to some folks to get liquid to lips, and it's a pretty special one, that, and single cask, and like Mark was saying, Californian red wine cask, and it is on the nose. It is that fruitiness, and it's absolute. It smells. I haven't tasted it, Mark. I've stayed away from it. It's absolutely amazing, but so lucky to have that on this tasting. That's really fantastic.
I think the three whiskies we've got there, I think, show a sort of depth and breadth. With the experimental one, you've got a bit of fun in there. I say fun, that's rather flippant, because obviously it's a very serious product. We spent lots of time developing it and getting the right sort of collaboration, if you like. Grand Cru, as you say, is one that perhaps a lot of people haven't had the opportunity to try it. But interestingly, all three that I've picked, they all fall into a similar flavor profile. There's definitely Glenfiddich. Anything we do, no matter where we're experimenting or using cask finishes, at the very heart of it, it has to still be recognizable as Glenfiddich. And these are three really interesting whiskies, which I'm hopeful everybody identifies as Glenfiddich to a lesser or greater extent.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Mark, thank you so much for your time this morning. I know you are a very busy man, just back in Edinburgh after a little bit of a trip up north there, you were saying. So thanks again for your time this morning. Really appreciated. And yeah, looking forward to getting this out to our members and to some of the folks who are going to come along and join us for the tasting on the 7th. So what we do, folks, is so every month we send out three samples of whiskey to you guys to come along and taste, and we send them out via post. They come in a nice little post pack. So like we say, next tasting is with Glenfiddich. Got a couple of spaces left, folks. So hopefully we'll get these out to you folks so you can have some of this absolutely banging liquid. Can't wait, Mark.
Looking forward to it very
Mark,
much.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciated. And we'll see you on the 7th.
See you on the 7th. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you.
Cheers, Mark.
Bye now.